Hey everyone. I wanted to check in because I'm just over halfway through Deacon King Kong by James McBride. And unfortunately, I'm not really enjoying this book. I think that it's just a style of book that is not my style. So to me, the subject matter is more suited to a movie. It is set in a set of projects in Brooklyn and follows a huge cast of characters, African American, Irish, Latinx descent, from all over the place, and living their lives in various different ways. And I think it's an interesting cast of characters in some ways. I just felt a little bit of a connection to one of the characters today. She's this 89-year-old woman. She's a gardener. She loves to do natural, medicinal plant searches across Brooklyn, which I find really interesting. But, the gist of the book is this kind of Deacon King Kong himself, whose nickname is Sport Coat, whose real name is something else that I don't remember, and he is kind of haunted by his wife, and there's this underlying mystery of this money that's been hidden, and then he gets really drunk and shoots a young drug dealer in the ear, and then he's in trouble, and he's being pursued by these higher ups in organized crime, and there's all these different people in organized crime who are trying to, it's just, it goes all over the place. I also really hate the way James McBride describes women. I think out of the women he's described, and the women are not the main characters, they're secondary characters, but out of the women that he's described, I think at least 8 of them have been described by their breast size, which I just, or their breasts are mentioned, and I'm just not interested. I can't, like, the women are either love interests or, kind of gossipy, busybodies, and there's this one woman who's always described as wanting to do, violent things to her ex-husband's genitals. Like, it's just, I think, maybe it's supposed to be funny, and I'm just not getting the jokes, but it is not my style of novel at all. And it is long. I am 7 hours in, something like that, and I still have another 5 hours. That's really long. Anyway, I'm gonna try to bust it out this week and listen to the rest of it, because I am obliged to listen to it because it is a book I am judging, even though I'm pretty sure it's gonna be on the bottom for me. I can understand why some people would like this book because it's more their type of subject matter. They like plot heavy, they like intrigue, they like, anyway. It's a bit too bang 'em up, shoot the shit for me. It's just, there's just not much else going on. And there's some of the conversations that some of the characters have I find exceedingly boring. Just it's kind of like listening to my parents discuss people that they knew 30 years ago who lived on a road that I don't know where that road is. It's like a conversation with your family where you're listening to them go on ad nauseum about people that you don't know, and it's boring. So that's where I am with it, unfortunately, and I will check in again when I'm finished. Hey everyone, I finished Deacon King Kong by James McBride, and I don't think my opinion has changed greatly from my previous check-in about it. I thought that the book did get a bit more cohesive at the in the last half, so that was good. But yeah, everything was kind of wrapped up neatly and tied with a bow. But I think it still would have been a better movie for me. It's just not subject matter that that I found compelling to read. And I also found that the little mysterious things were kind of, once they were revealed, were, some of them were very obvious, and then some of them were what is the right word? I'm not sure. It's a bit of a struggle with this book because I think that I can see why other people would really like it. It's just about taste, and I just don't have that particular style of book as my go-to, or something that I really enjoy listening to. So that is my thoughts on that one. They're a bit scattered, I guess. And so I guess I would say, if you enjoy multiple character plot, and then like kind of plot reveals in chunks where you get like this whole big explanation about these other things that have been eluding the characters in the novel for chapters and chapters, and then they're revealed slowly, and then everything gets tied up in a nice little bow at the end, maybe this book is for you. I thought some of it was a bit too, everything was very complicated, and then everything was very simple at the end. So yeah, I doubt I would try another James McBride. I don't think his style works for me. So that is where I'm going to end that one. Hey everybody. I wanted to check in with you today about Interior Chinatown by Charles Wu. I'm halfway, and it's a little bit challenging to talk about this book. So it is laid out in a really interesting way, which is, there's kind of a narrative for our protagonist, whose name is Willis, and there is these sequences of a script being acted out by Willis and by other characters around him in this book. And so it's not a very cohesive, to me, flowing novel. I find that it is kind of hard to move in and out of the different parts. The main setting, and as far as I can tell, the only setting in this book is a nondescript Chinatown. So a Chinatown that could be interchangeable with any Chinatown in the United States. And this is a Chinese restaurant called the Golden Palace. And below is the restaurant, and above are hundreds of apartments. They're one-room apartments where a lot of Chinese immigrants and also Chinese Americans, generations down, live. And they live together. And I believe what Charles Wu is trying to do is compare the stereotypes. So take all the stereotypes of Asian Americans that are in popular culture, in films and TV, I would say specifically, and show them and kind of deconstruct them a little bit and point them out and make fun of them in a certain way. And so you see that in relation to himself and his kind of desire to be what he's calling a kung fu guy. And then you see that in his mother's character. She was kind of the stereotypical beautiful Asian rose in films. And then his father, who is no longer able to be the roles that like the young Asian character would have in a film or a movie, and then instead is doing like he's the cook in a Chinese restaurant. And so he's playing with a lot of things around race in the story, which I find really interesting. All of what I've described I find really interesting. It's not engaging in terms of making me want to read it is part of the problem. And I just don't think that I'm the right audience for a book of this nature, because I'm not. This isn't my. It's not a genre that would appeal to me. And there's kind of a little bit of a mystery as well, but what is really happening and what is part of this TV show that he's acting in, it gets all mixed up. So there isn't really a division between reality and the fictional world that he is creating in the TV show or movie that is also filming at the restaurant. So again, this is where I am in the story. I'm finding it kind of confusing. And yeah, so I can't say that it's something that I'm compelled to read. I'm gonna finish it because I have to finish it, but it's definitely just not holding me present within it, because I'm just finding it really challenging to follow the narrative. The parts that I'm enjoying the most are when he's talking about his life, his upbringing with his mom and his dad, how his parents met, and how their life is within this community that is created in the apartment building above the restaurant. So that's all I've got to say for now. Hi everyone. I wanted to wrap up Interior Chinatown by Charles Wu with you. So I think when I read the reviews of this book after I finished it, I think it's very beloved, and I think a lot of people really got on with the style of how it was written, which I think I've described earlier as being script, like a script with not a lot of traditional novel structure. And while I appreciated that kind of experimentation, it didn't really work for me as a story, and it did pull me in and out of the story, because I was constantly trying to figure out if it was a script, if it was real life, and I think, by getting to the end and reading through, I realized that it was supposed to be both, and it was more, and it was also supposed to be funny, I think. And so I appreciated the humor that was in it, and I think I could see the irony that the author was trying to convey. But I don't usually get on very well with humorous books. They just don't hit for me, and so I end up reading them the wrong way. Like, it doesn't compute, very well, unfortunately. So I really appreciate the perspectives that this book offered, and the kind of call to question around Chinese identity in the United States. I think it was that part was very well demonstrated, and I think it accomplished something really important in terms of breaking down stereotypes. But in terms of an enjoyable reading experience and something that I felt engaged in and something that I would, really enjoyed, it was not that for me. Hey everyone. Okay, well, I think, halfway through The Mirror and the Light. I just finished part 2, so I'm probably 40 pages off of exactly halfway, but I thought that this would be a fine place to check in with you about it. So my overall impression of the book is that it is fine, and I have to say I didn't find the pace, I don't find the pace of it something that I'm flying through, which is really unfortunate when you're reading an almost 900-page book. You want to feel like you can move through it really easily without a lot of labor in the reading process. And I just find that in terms of it being, being halfway through reading it now, having read Wolf Hall and Bring Up the Bodies, it is written in such a manner that if you didn't read Wolf Hall and Bring Up the Bodies, I don't think it will matter. So in that way, I guess it stands on its own 2 feet in terms of being able to be judged for this prize. Having read Wolf Hall and Bring Up the Bodies last month, so very closely to this one, I am a bit disappointed in it. And I'm seeing, to me, Wolf Hall is a superior book. Now, I know I'm not supposed to be judging this book with Wolf Hall. I'm supposed to be judging this book against the other 5 books that I've read. So I am doing that. And, in terms of my enjoyment level, in terms of engagement, it's in the middle of the pack for me. I'm kind of surprised at the tone is different from Wolf Hall. So both Bring Up the Bodies and Mirror in the Light, she changed the tone, and she added in explanations more. Before she would say he, and you wouldn't know who he was unless you knew it was Cromwell, and then you always assumed it was Cromwell unless she stated otherwise. I really liked that about Wolf Hall. And in Bring Up the Bodies and in Mirror in the Light, she makes it obvious. She says he dash Lord Cromwell, or he dash the Privy Seal. So she changed the way she's telling the story, which I find weird. I don't know if she did that because other people complained it was too hard to understand before. But to me, like this, I think it's also because she's dealing with real life. Obviously, she's putting a lot of spin on those real life facts, but Wolf Hall moved at a really good pace. It skipped years, it skipped decades, it built the story in a much more engaging way for me. And The Mirror in the Light is this very methodical, movement through this specific time, and I'm just not finding it as engaging as I did the beginning of his life. So that's where I am with The Mirror in the Light, and I have never been down to the wire for the BookTube prize as much as I am for this round. I have to submit my results by 5 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday the 29th. Right now it is Monday the 24th, and I'm halfway, which does give me some anxiety. I'm gonna read. I work tomorrow. Today was a holiday here in Canada, so I was able to take today off and do some serious reading. Tomorrow I work, so I'll try to read as much as I can. Wednesday I'm not working, and then Friday I'm not working. So I have to read like the wind. And unfortunately, I just don't find it, like, I'm forcing myself to read right now. I'm forcing myself. So that's too bad. But one way or the other, I am wrapping this book up very soon, and then I will check in with you when I'm done. Hello, everyone. Dun, 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 dun. I have finished The Mirror and the Light by Hilary Mantel. And it's interesting, I just watched my halfway check-in, and I think my feelings have changed a lot about this book after the second half. And I'm always really glad when that happens. I'm always really glad when my estimation improves and when things improve once you've finished a book. It sucks when it either stays the same or degrades. So a little bit after my last check-in, I started noticing some of the elements of the crafting that Hilary Mantel was using to tell the story. And I started noticing when she used the word mirror and when she used the word light. And I started to find that fascinating and a wonderful way to engage with the text more. I feel like, light flickers and mirrors reflect things. And through this whole thing, she was trying to show the trickery of mirrors. So, how complicated the politics and the, things like that around the king were. How Cromwell was reaching his height, and it was making him kind of reflect more on his past, which, at times I found really frustrating because I already knew his past, but this was more about his journey and him reaching, becoming Lord Privy Seal, becoming a Knight of the Garter, becoming, becoming an Earl, the Earl of Essex, his huge march forward to be ruined at the end, right? This was all in here, and I really enjoyed that. So I think at the beginning half of the book, she uses mirror a lot, and then she continues to use mirror, but then light, the word light comes in more and more and is talked about more and more in the second half. And then the last two chapters, one is called mirror, one is called light. I was very gripped at the end. Cromwell's downfall comes very quickly. It wraps you up into this feeling for me of no, I don't want this to happen, even though I knew it was going to happen. So to me, that is the sign of an author, doing their craft well. I obviously already cared about Thomas Cromwell because I had read the first two books, and so I was very invested in him as a person, and I wanted him to continue on his ascension and not fall. I'm very glad that I've read this series, and I think that this book definitely holds a really good standing. It is well crafted. Did I get bored in places and find it hard to get through it? Yes. And that is just because I'm not as into political intrigue and backstabbing and the names and the negotiations between countries and all those types of things. So that part of the book was a bit boring for me. But Cromwell himself, who was the reason I wanted to read these, I'm a character-based reader. I want to read about the characters' flaws and good traits and loves and losses, and so as a character, he compelled me to keep reading. So yeah, that is the end of my BookTube journey for round 2. And I'm so glad to be through this book. It was a big, big beast, and I've read 2 books over 800 pages this year, and that is enough big books for me, I think, for 2021. I hope you enjoy these vlogs, and if you would like to see my rankings video, that will be linked, and I will be in touch again soon when I next read for the BookTube prize.